I'm gonna be real with you. Rose Quartz, my cosplay, was never supposed to happen. I had no intention of cosplaying Rose Quartz because when I first started watching Steven Universe, I didn't actually like Rose Quartz that much. I had another problem. I needed to be Pink Diamond and Rose Quartz at the exact same time for my Holmat skit for NCC last year. That was when I decided I need to make a Rose Quartz cosplay. Pink Diamond is inspired by ballet, so obviously Rose Quartz is the sister design, has to be inspired by ballet too. For Rose Quartz was Waltz of the Flowers from Nutcracker. These are kind of the references that I was going for. Now, with this in mind, it did mean that I would have to go darker for the colors than if I were to cosplay this the normal way. Most people do the white to pink transition, but because I'm already starting at pink, I don't have that light color to use for the transition, which means that the darkest layer of my skirt is going to have to be darker than the reference. So while you're watching this video, if you decide, oh, Komiko's Rose Quartz cosplay isn't accurate, all right, did you get that out of your system? Good. Now, let me show you how I made my Rose Quartz cosplay. Cross grain, selvage, cross grain, grain. So what we are making is called a ballet bodice. I go into more detail about this in my Pink Diamond video, so I'm going to explain it a little bit more casually in this video. The one that I'm using is the Tutus That Dance one. I think this is ballet bodice D, but don't quote me on that. I attempted to try both cutting this with scissors and with my rotary tool, and personally, I find the rotary tool to give a more precise cut for these specifically. I would recommend cutting these out individually since the size of these and the shape of these is really important, like with most corsets or bodices in general. So I went back to the fabric store and I got this same brocade fabric that is on my Pink Diamond cosplay, and I thought it would be perfect for Rose. But I don't love the shiny texture, so I got this chiffon to overlay. Now, chiffon and I are not friends, but maybe today we will be. So, you know what? I'm just gonna put my best foot forward and see what happens. I am going to preface this by saying that I am not cutting this correctly. If you want chiffon to listen to you, the best way to do this is to cut these pieces bigger than you need them and cut them individually. I don't really care about this coming out perfectly since I know the chiffon's going to fight me anyway, so I'm not doing that. Once again, with this one, we are also going to serge all of the bodice pieces together. First, I am serging all of the brocade pieces and then the chiffon afterwards. I struggled greatly to get all of the chiffon layers to lie flat on my serger, but what I found was the most successful method was to serge the longer sides of each piece first when I went to serge the chiffon on top. But if you want to completely minimize any kind of puckering in your bodice pieces, I would recommend either just using a completely different fabric altogether, or to make a completely separate piece out of only the chiffon. That is the only way to get a perfectly flat lying bodice. Once we have all of the bodice pieces together, I'm going to assemble them with my machine. Now, these pieces have to be assembled in a very specific manner, so I have drawn out all of my seam lines. As I go to sew this, I'm going to follow those seam lines that I drew out to make sure that everything lines up properly. Afterwards, I'm going to be sewing my bone casings. These are just made out of twill tape, and the best way to get these to sew super quickly is to do them chain style. For these, I'm only doing about 3 boning channels since this bodice is a lot more casual. It will also need a herringbone stitch as well as the Pink Diamond bodice. Because it is essentially the same stitch, I decided to just show you the footage of me sewing the pink diamond bodice together, but what we're doing is called a herringbone stitch. These are going to get stitched into the first 3 seam lines at the front and side front pieces of the bodice, and then I also sewed some boning into the back of the bodice as well. But once again, this is not holding up any heavy ass sleeves or anything, so this doesn't need as much boning as the pink diamond bodice, in my opinion. Okay, this is the pink diamond one, this is the rose one. I couldn't get all the bubbles out, but I do not care. Pink diamond's my comp build, not this one. So I don't really care to redo it. It has boning in here, and then I whip stitch down the eyelet tape and the seam allowance, and then it has the 3 bones and the herringbone stitch. But again, I didn't add extra boning because I forgot and I'm kind of too lazy. So it just gives 3 bones in the front and then 2 in the back. I'm gonna go ahead and do some cording on the edges of each bodice. And I'm probably gonna take in the pink diamond one. Oh my god. I'm gonna take in the rose quartz one a little bit because you can see here, I think it's a little bit bigger, maybe? I think I'm making that part up. Never mind, I am going to cord these now. Technically, the proper way to finish a ballet bodice is to do something called piping. It is essentially the same thing, but instead of sandwiching cord or yarn in here, you wouldn't sandwich anything at all. I'm doing cording since this is the same thing I did for my pink diamond bodice, and I like cohesion. Basically, I sandwich yarn in between these 2 pieces of bias tape cut on the bias of this brocade, and then it gets sewn to the bodice to give a nice finish. Next, we are going to be making the rose pieces that go on the front of pink diamonds. Oh my god, Rose Quartz's bodice. I'm showing you how I made the ones for pink diamond, but the ones for rose quartz are essentially made in the same way. What I like to use is called a die cutter, and this is the specific die that I use for it. I find felt to be the best way to use it. I have starch fabrics and used them instead, and personally I find felt to be the easiest one to use. It gets sandwiched in between these 2 plates and the die, and then you roll them through the die cutter. Now, I would recommend that you rotate your plates as you use them so that you don't have to replace them as often. Once they are rolled through the die cutter, you're left with these windy, rolly up pieces, and these will shortly turn into the rose later on. I'm using a nail tool to just help me gather my bearings as I roll this together, and basically all you have to do is roll it. You could sew this, but I find the hot glue method to be a lot easier. Also, I think this adheres to the felt really well, so I don't think it needs to be sewn, but you can always sew it if you want. Once it's fully rolled up, you're left with very cute flowers. And for my pink diamond, oh my god, I'm gonna do that for the entire video. I apologize in advance. For my rose quartz bodice, she just has 3 light pink roses that sit on the front of her bodice. If you have a camper dino, they are great phone holders. You can do it like this way and this way. Back to Rose Quartz. Apologies, I didn't film the prints that I got in the mail, but I got 2. This is the smaller one. There is one that's about 3.5 inches in diameter. I'm using the bigger one. Even though this one is more canonically accurate, personally, I feel like proportionately, I think the bigger one's just going to translate better in real life. So basically, this is how big the other gem is for reference. I made a little star pattern. This is the smaller one, but I made a star pattern out of some paper and I pinned it onto here. Actually, I think it's here. Yeah, here we go. This is the bigger one that I made. So I made a paper pattern and then I cut it out of canvas fabric and then I needed 2 layers of power mesh to get opacity, and then it's just basted. In order to get the power mesh to lie flat, I kind of stretched it as I was stitching it, that way it lies flat, and that really worked. So basically, it is all pinned in place. It is... Look, I know it doesn't look like it matches my skin tone, but I promise you it's gonna match. But basically, now what I have to do is I'm gonna go through and fold it like so, and then do a very teeny tiny prick stitch, or a whip stitch. That way it looks almost invisible when I'm wearing it, and then we'll glue the resin gem right on there. Really quickly, I will say that I did adjust the star pattern on the bodice to be more of a sharper pattern, but you'll see what it looks like later on in this video. Here are the full sizes of the Rose Quartz patterns, 3D files that I got off the internet, and I'm using Mold Maker and cooking spray as a mold release since I heard it on the internet. Okay, so the molds are just finished. This is how the pink diamond one came out. I forgot to spray it before I put it in there, but it came out pretty good. This is the one that I did with the cooking spray, and it's pretty greasy. I guess it didn't cure, properly dry with the cooking spray on it. So honestly, this is about 4 coats of Plastidip. I think you can get away with just doing this for molds. So here's to show that not everything you see on the internet is necessarily true or will work for you. Anyway, here is how the second box for my silicone mold came out. I decided to just go for a cheaper alternative since the second one was kind of a bust and I needed a bigger mold anyway. So I am going to be remixing the 2 parts silicone in order to make a mold for my resin to pour into later. This time I used just Plastidip, and it actually works really well on its own as a mold release. So do not spray cooking spray on your mold in order to get it to release. It doesn't need it if you seal it with Plastidip. Next, we are going to be pouring the resin into the mold. Now, this is one of about 4 files that I printed for Rose Quartz. I did still have issues with this one, as I also did with Pink Diamond. But essentially what we're doing is we're mixing 2 parts of resin. It is important to make sure that they are the exact same amount, as this can mess up how well it cures later. I'm also adding alcohol, dye, and mica powder in order to give it a sparkly finish. The best way to ensure that you don't get bubbles in your mold is to mix slowly and thoroughly for about 1 to 3 minutes, and to pour as high and as far away from the mold as you can with an even trail as you go to pour it. This will ensure that you don't get any bubbles towards the middle of your mold, but obviously this can't prevent any molds at the surface. The best way to mitigate that is to use some kind of mold release spray. I use Man Ease Release in order to minimize on bubbles at the surface of the mold. The other thing that you can do is to use a heat gun. This will just to help ensure, especially if it's cold outside, to make sure there's no bubbles in the middle of your mold. Okay, apologies, I've been really bad with updating on Rose Quartz. I guess a lot of it is, well, it's in my Pink Diamond videos, so people can just watch that. But I do realize that there might be someone who is just interested in cosplaying Pink Rose Quartz and needs like a tutorial on that specifically. So I'm going to try to be a little bit more thorough with my explanation. So here is the finished bodice. In reference to my Pink Diamond bodice, mind you, these are the exact same color. These were printed at the exact same time. This one is a lot more of like a muted pink, whereas this one is that nice like pink, but it's because this one is like thicker than this one, and this one is on a light pink background, whereas this one is on a skin tone background. So if I could go back, I would have glued this to a white base and then glued it to the bodice, but it's E6000 on there and it cured for 3 days, so it's not coming off. This is false. You can actually use acetone to remove E6000. But yeah, And as you can see, all of the cording is on here and everything, and the gem is fully dry. Mind you, the camera might not pick this up, but there are way more air bubbles in this one than in the pink diamond one. If you haven't watched my pink diamond video, basically I explained why you get so many air bubbles at the top of the mold here. Technically the bottom of the mold. Basically it has to do with too much air or gas being incorporated into either the silicone or the resin. So that's something you have to be careful of when you cast these, because these you can't fix. You either have to sand it or cast a new file. But I mean, this is not my comp build, pink diamond is, so I'm a little more lax about the quality of the gem for this one. And I mean, from back here, you can't see it, so does it really matter? The other thing that I was having problems with is this has way less pieces than pink diamond. It's just a bodice and a dress, well, and a skirt. Unfortunately, I have been having a really hard time finding fabric pieces for the skirt because of how intentional I was with the bodice fabric. So as you can see, it is a brocade with a chiffon on top. And if I hold it up to something white, can you kind of tell? This is light pink. It's not white. So I can't buy white fabric because it's gonna be too light for the color of the dress. Okay, so I've been ordering all of my samples from Fabric wholesale direct. This is the blush shade. I already ordered a yard of it and I made the first skirt. So it's coming up white on camera, but it is like a very pale peachy pink. And if I hold it up to the bodice, it is slightly darker, but you can kind of tell that they're the same shade, if that makes sense. I think they work together quite nice. What I was going to do was I purchased blush as the first color, and then I was going to order pink, American Beauty, and their fuchsia. But they are sold out of their pink and they are sold out of fuchsia, and they don't intend to restock them until December 31st, which is after Holmat, which is not gonna work. So I have to outsource elsewhere. I ordered some more samples from Etsy. Unfortunately, their organza is twice as much as Fabric Wholesale Direct's organza is. And my samples, I had to wait for them to get here before I can even decide what fabric to buy. So that's what's just been taking me so long for finishing Rose, is getting all of these samples. Yeah, it's a lot, but let me explain to you why I'm being so finicky with these fabric samples.
Rose Quartz is an alien, but she's someone who cares a lot about the earth. So I wanted a soft, calming, and whimsical fabric that kind of floats to show someone that is in nature, but not a part of nature. I thought organza would be a good contender for this, as it's a very lightweight and flowy fabric, but it's a lot easier to work with than something like chiffon, as we've already discussed.
It's looking good so far. The problem is the amount of layers I need to build up a good enough opacity, because like this part is not see-through and this is just one layer, and then this part is only see-through because it's got that layer. But you see, if I cover this with the second layer, it's still not enough. Third layer, still not enough. Fourth layer, finally opaque. And this is a circle skirt, so that's going to take a lot of fabric. So that's where I'm at right now.
So the price to pay for being whimsical is having to spend $80 to $100 on just organza. So since organza is not as opaque as I would like for it to be for this garment, I'm actually going to have to make a lot of circle skirts for this. For reference, the first 2 layers are 2 full circle skirt layers. The 3rd and 4th layer are 3 layers each. So the next thing that we're going to do after the skirt is done is work on the wig. I purchased this wig from Epic Cosplay Wigs as I really liked the color for Rose Quartz. What we're going to do first is crimp it. Now I've talked about this again and again on this channel. I always crimp my wigs at around 410 to 450 degrees depending on the wig, and I crimp in a vertical manner using my crusty brush to brush them out. This is going to make the fibers a lot easier to work with, and it'll give you more volume, which for someone like Rose Quartz, you are definitely going to need the extra volume. Just look at the difference between this and the non-crimped. Next, I am going to ringlet curl all of the hair. And then afterwards, I'm going to go ahead and style the bangs. For this, I actually found that the bangs were a pretty good length, so I didn't actually need to trim them. All I did was kind of use my pins to shape it into the voluminous bang that Rose Quartz had, and then I used my steamer to reinforce that shape, which made it really easy. After this, it's going to get a spray of hairspray so it stays in shape. Now, unless you want to fully add 2 wigs together, this alone is not going to be full enough for an average Rose Quartz wig. So what I'm going to do is separate all of the curls to make the wig as voluminous as I can make it without adding extra wefts into it. Yes, that is Steven Universe in the back. We're going to do 2 layers, 1 layer of ringlets on the bottom and 1 on the top. And here is how the wig turned out. Despite it being a really easy project, I think it turned out super cute. So with that, the Rose Quartz cosplay is actually done. So let me show you the final result. Didn't think I'd suit Rose Quartz, but I absolutely love how flowy the skirt is, and the ringlet curls with it too. Everything is just super fun. And this cosplay is actually really comfortable to wear, so it was really nice to wear at Holmat, even though I was a little cold.
I was quite surprised at how much I liked my Rose Quartz cosplay in the end. I was just convinced that this was a character that wouldn't suit me very well, and I'm sure that we all have that kind of idea when it comes to certain cosplays, but I'm here to tell you and maybe remind some of you that cosplay at the end of the day is supposed to be fun. And whether you look awesome or feel awesome or don't feel that great in a cosplay, did you have fun while wearing it? And that's what's important. While I feel like Pink Diamond suits me way better, and I feel way more at home cosplaying someone like Pink Diamond over Rose Quartz, I can't deny that it's a pretty costume, and I had a lot of fun wearing it. Rose Quartz is like a super simple cosplay, and it's super comfortable to wear. Whoa, 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 whoa. It is not simple. It is not simple, but it is simpler than Pink Diamond, and it is really comfortable and easy to wear, and I can also put on the cosplay a lot faster than my Pink Diamond cosplay. While we're at it, if for some reason you have not seen my Pink Diamond video, check that out. It's a 2-hour-long video, and it took me 2 whole weeks just to upload it. I'm not talking about making it. I'm not talking about editing it. I mean just uploading it. With that being said, I have some fun videos planned for the future. So the teaser that I'll give you for my next cosplay video is... Oh, what? No, don't look at that. Don't worry about that. Secondly, this, I made this. I made it. It is like, and it's got pockets. It's got pockets. I plan to make 2 Lolita sewing videos. One about how to make shirring pieces like the one I'm wearing, and the second one will be how to make a square neckline JSK with a partial shirring panel in the back. This video is taking quite a long time to make just because I want it to be a full comprehensive sewing video so that you could use it for pretty much any Lolita JSK or OP that you want to make. So please give me a second to actually make that. It's gonna take a while. Second Lolita video will actually be my wardrobe tour. The point is that in my last video, all of my pieces were Moitié, and I actually outgrew all of my Moitié pieces. So pretty much over 70% of everything I showed you in that video, I was forced to sell because I don't fit it anymore, and Moitié has shoddy sizing. But not to worry, I made 32 dresses last year. Yes, I know I have a problem, so you will be getting a comprehensive video on basically all of my handmade dresses and wire headshot, because that's basically all my wardrobe is right now. But with that being said, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for the support on my Pink Diamond video and my Pink Diamond post. I did not expect Pink Diamond to pop off as much as she did, but it makes me so happy because, oh my god, editing that 2-hour video was a beast and a half, and I did it while I had the flu. So thank you if you watched it. Thank you if you got to the end of this video. I was a little afraid people wouldn't care too much about this one because I talk a lot about stuff that I've already discussed on my channel, and I don't know, I'm here for you Rose Quartz girlies. I know you want your own video for that because there's not a lot of videos on how to make rose quartz or pink diamonds, so I wanted to change that. Thank you for coming to my little corner of the internet, and I hope you enjoy your stay here. And as always, I hope you, yes you, have a wonderful day.